Hello and welcome to the Rise Up in Business podcast. I'm Tracy Myler-Crane and I'm your host. This is the legal and business podcast for small business owners, where I draw from my experience as a business lawyer and the insights I've gained from supporting hundreds of service-based businesses. When it comes to what can go wrong in business, there is nothing I haven't seen. I believe prevention is better than cure, always. And through this podcast, I'm sharing with you what you need to know to build strong legal foundations in your business and to set yourself up for long-term sustainable success. Let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rise Up in Business podcast. Thank you for joining me for another episode, and if this is your first, welcome. A couple of episodes ago, I shared all about what went into the brand evolution to TM Legal Atelier, and I've shared with you in recent episodes some of the really important people that go into supporting me in my business and on my business journey that make things like such a powerful brand evolution possible. And as I shared a couple of episodes ago, I have received such overwhelming congratulations and warmth and messages of celebration in relation to the new brand, and I'm so grateful for that. And so many people have asked me, my goodness, you must have quite the team behind you. Who are you working with to make all of this possible? And it's so interesting because it's such a flattering question, and I'm so grateful that the brand has been received the way that it has. What I wanted to share and what I have been sharing is a bit about the journey, my business journey, and who some of the core pillars are that support me and my business on the journey. Because the brand evolution wasn't just about here's 3 or 4 months worth of work to come up with and create a new brand and a new website. There's so much more to it than that. I shared Michelle Broadbent with you recently, who has been a key pillar on my business journey and continues to be. And in today's episode, I'm going to share with you my accountant, John Saade. John is somebody who is very important on my business journey, John and his team, and it's not what you'd think. So as I say in the episode to John, I didn't run my brand past him. He didn't see my logo, none of that. But it's not about that. It's about so much more than that, and it's about the journey and it's about the support that gets us there. And I've wanted to bring John onto the podcast for a long time because I wanted to talk about what it should be like working with an accountant. And the reason for that is because in my experience, the perception around accountants and lawyers are very similar in that they are not necessarily approachable, or it's dull, or it's boring, or it's overwhelming, or you don't know where to start, or I don't really want to reach out and talk to an accountant. I don't really want to reach out and talk to a lawyer. I'm very different. I pride myself on that, and my clients give me that lovely, warm feedback frequently. And John also is very different, and that's why he and his team are my accountants. So I wanted to bring him on, and we have such a fabulous, raw, open and honest conversation around John's passion, where it came from, what his vision is, what sets him apart, and why he's so approachable. He's so lovely. He's so down to earth, but my goodness, they are so competent. They are so good at what they do. They are light years ahead of other accountants that I've worked with, of others that I've been exposed to, both in litigation days and just in business generally. They really are, which is why he's coming onto the podcast. So I can have this conversation and you can glean an insight into what it's actually supposed to be like working with an accountant. It's so important. It's so important to have a good business lawyer as a part of your team. Equally so, a good accountant. I hope you love this conversation. We had a really great time recording this, as you can tell. I will come back in here and chat to you a bit more at the end. John, hello and welcome to the podcast.
How you going, Tracy?
It is so good to have you here, John. We have been talking about having you on to have this conversation for so long.
I know. I can't believe it's finally happened. I'm pretty sure this is how we first met. We were going to tee up a podcast, and then we forgot to do that and did about 100 other things, and now we're back. We've circled back around to podcast.
We've circled back, and I am so pleased that we have. When I first wanted to bring you onto the podcast, there was a couple of reasons for that. One is because, as you know, as we all know, there's lawyers and there's lawyers, and there's accountants and there's accountants. And finding a good accountant that you can actually connect with and be supported by is really rare. And I have found that with you and your team. And so I wanted to introduce you to my listeners for that reason. But the second reason is because I want my listeners to know from this conversation what it's supposed to be like working with an accountant. I don't know if you get this conversation, well, if you get the question as much as I do, but when people reach out to me, they say, oh, I've been putting off reaching out for so long because lawyers are off-putting and dry and I didn't know where to start. But you're really nice and you're really warm and you're really helpful. And the same goes for you. And I just want to showcase that a little bit on this episode so people can actually get an insight on what it's supposed to be like.
Thank you very much. It's very flattering to hear that from you. Obviously, I don't go around tooting my own horn, but it's very nice to sit, on the other side and hear you say something like that. So I do want to say this. We've worked with you as a client as well in the legal space, and it's exactly true what you're saying. It's not a typical experience working with a lawyer. It's not typical working with you compared to what we have done working with other lawyers. And I think a lot of what we do there is similar. And I think the basis is relationship and trust. And that relationship and trust building with our clients is similar to how you would do it. It's that work out who your client is, know them really well. Something Tufik in our office is always talking about with our entire team in training. It's like, if you don't know your client, you don't know their industry, their family, their scenario, you got no right giving them advice. You have to get to know who you're dealing with. Every single person is a different case. And you have to understand the specifics, the actual sensory of who they are, what they're trying to achieve, where they've come from, where they're going, and understand that in a way without judgment. And then you're going to build that foundation of trust.
We connect on so many levels. And I'm so glad that you said that. Let's go back a step, John, and let me just ask you this. I know the answer to this, but I'd love you to share this. Why do you care? Why do you care so much about supporting small business owners?
Initially when I got into accounting, I didn't realize at the time that I would care this much. I mean, I was a young guy coming through school. I was looking for a way I was in love with my girlfriend at high school, Sarah, who I ended up marrying. We've got 2 kids, one on the way. Yeah, it's a lovely high school sweetheart story. But I was looking for a way to make some money, work out how I'm going to buy a house, get out of my parents' home. And I just wanted a strong career. But I didn't realize that embedded in the subconscious of my childhood was a lot of pain around financial stress, financial pressure, hardship around small business. My dad was a small business owner. He had a taxi business. He was a taxi driver. He rented out taxis. And I believe because of bad advice and lack of understanding of the tax system and structuring, legalities, his business ended up failing and we lost the family home. And subsequently, my parents' marriage broke up and there's a lot of heartache around that. So financial pressure leads to personal, relational stress, and then that leads to family issues and breakdown. And having seen that and then realizing I found myself in an industry where I could actually work with small business owners to prevent those situations from happening around structuring, around losing your home. I was saying on the weekend, I'm not in the business of letting the ATO take my clients' homes. I want to structure things in a way where I'm protecting clients, making sure clients understand their numbers, making sure they're minimizing their tax so that those small business owners can go home and focus on being mums and dads, husbands, wives, be there, be present, and not mentally stressed about, is the ATO coming after me? And then if that happens, the downstream effect from that is little Johnny in another home somewhere isn't hearing his parents fighting about BAS or tax or ATO. That's where the passion definitely comes from. And we fed that into the business and we built the vision around loving and caring for small business owners to make their lives better.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That just lays the framework for exactly why it is that you do things the way that you do. And I love that you've just contextualized that so genuinely, so openly. That just makes so much sense on so many levels. I've heard you on podcasts before. In fact, the very first time I ever heard you talk was on a podcast, and you were sharing a lot about your background and your dad and how that all came to be. And then one of your business partners I knew, he connected us, and then you and I have started talking and working together, and I'm your client and you're my client, and, the rest is history, as they say. It is a very happy family. You look after so many of my clients because I get asked for referrals a lot. And I don't always give them. But when I do give them, it's hand on heart. And one of the great things about the timing of this conversation is we launched our rebrand at the beginning of the month. Since then, I've been overwhelmed with the love and support and congratulations that have come from my community. Some people that I haven't connected with before, many of them my clients. But what they've all asked me is, how on earth have you pulled it off, Tracy? How did you get this far along and do a massive rebrand like this? And you must have a mammoth team behind you. Tell me who your coach is. Tell me who you're working with. Don't have a coach, don't have a massive team, but the ones I do have are really, really important to me because it's a journey. It's not just a 3 or 4 month rebrand and let's do all the design stuff. It's what comes before that. And you and your team have been instrumental over the past couple of years for me in bringing it all up to a level where you can go, actually, we've now hit new levels in the business in terms of, yes, sure, the numbers, but also the vision, the clarity, but the support. And I'm answering some of these people, and it got me thinking, how do I answer this? How do I say my accountant's been really important? My business strategist has been really important. I didn't ring John and ask him what he thought of my branding. I didn't ring John and ask him what he thought of my logo, but I didn't need to because John and his team have positioned me to be in a point in the business journey where I've got so much confidence with what I'm doing going forward. There's no doubt in relation to the business. That's what you bring.
Thank you very much. And congratulations on the rebrand, obviously. And that's great. We love seeing you grow. And, we want to be along the journey with the client. So I say to clients all the time, if you are stressed about accounting, tax, your numbers, you're not going to feel free enough to pivot, take risks, and make decisions in the best interest of your business. So if accounting and tax is front of mind for you as a business operator every minute of every day, let's be honest. I mean, you should know, what your numbers are, but there's probably a problem there. If we're there working with our clients and you feel safe that your BAS, your tax and everything is going to be dealt with on time and right, you can actually go back and think, okay, let's look at the marketing of the business. Let's look at sales. Let's look at production, operations. How can we grow those things? How can I expand? You're not constrained. So you're 100% right. We didn't give you any advice on rebranding or marketing because that's not our expertise, and we wouldn't even step into that side of things. But when you did come on board, we did specifically look more at numbers and tax and things like that. And we hear that from clients all the time, is that they understand now that they're getting consistent feedback on their numbers and on their tax, and they know what they're looking at. They can actually grow their wings and fly and do all those things they want to do. So I do want clients to be invested in their numbers. Like, I do want you to think about, okay, what's my revenue? What's my profit? Where's my tax at? But I want it to just be there as in that place of understanding, not necessarily right up here, taking up a lot of headspace and making a lot of noise. So if you feel like your accounting tax is noisy, you're taking it home with you, it's a burden, it's probably a mess, and you probably need someone to come in and help guide, advise, restructure and clean that up. If you know absolutely nothing about it, it's probably also a mess as well. There's that, the Goldilocks sort of, not too hot, not too cold. There's a place where your accounting and numbers need to be, and it's somewhere in that middle space where you're aware of it, it's taken care of, you're not stressed out, but it's not eating up too much time and mental energy.
And I think also, if I can just expand on that, John, I think you're right. You've hit the nail on the head. You need to be aware of it. You need to have the confidence, but you don't need to be stressing about it every day. But how do you find, this is the question, how do you find an accountant and a team that you can connect with where you can get that peace of mind? And so many of my clients, and myself included, have had really negative experiences with accountants, much like they have with lawyers. Go, oh my goodness, another lawyer. Oh, great, fantastic. Last thing I want to do is reach out to another lawyer. And many clients say the same thing about accountants. But it's like a relationship, or it's like a marriage, I say always. It's got to feel right. And you've got to feel heard, and you've got to feel supported. And if you don't, and if it's not right, move on. Find another partner. Find another accountant.
I say this we do a new client leads every week. They come in. So we believe the small business owner is the hero of the community, and our goal is to help small business owners across Australia achieve their goals and dreams. But helping them is what drives us. Okay, so we get out of bed every day in the morning, not to make a wage, not to make a profit, not to get away from our families. It is a purpose in this society, in this community we're building, in this country. We have a function. Our function is to help you. When we're having that introductory meeting, we set it as we're offering our services to help you. But I say this to them all the time. I need you to have a good think about, like, you come into our office or jump on a Zoom. I'll tell you our vision, our mission. I'll tell you how we help people. I'll show you our Google reviews. I'll give you our pricing. I'll give you all the information you need as to make a decision. But what you need to work out is if you believe you can trust me and my team, okay? If you think you can trust us with your accounting and your numbers, we're the right accountant for you. If you think there's something, if we've given any indications to you, the way we talk, something you've seen online, or anything gives you doubt, then I would not change accountants or use us. I would say you need that gut instinct that you can trust this person, because financial matters are very intimate, okay? And if you're going to talk about money in the bank, tax, liabilities, it becomes personal. It becomes discussions about families, husbands, wives, employees, and it's not transactional, especially as a business owner. Firstly, the tax system is very onerous. There's a lot of lodgements, a lot of year ends, quarter ends, and then there's tenure. These relationships on average are 10 years. I think it's you're more vulnerable talking about your numbers with your accountant in some ways than you'd be standing naked in front of a doctor. Do you know what I mean? Because it is like the most personal thing is your money and your financial situation. So if you can't leave that discovery meeting with the accountant feeling trust, feeling a connection with them, I think everything else becomes insignificant. So trust your gut instinct and trust the vibe you're getting. And then all the sensory will come in after that. Do they have good Google reviews? Do they have a good record with the ATO? Is their pricing fair? You can look at all the details, but you need that overall intuitive gut instinct and vibe to work. And then once that's out of the way, you can go into, okay, let's look at the bits and pieces.
I love that you framed it that way, John. You're so right. You're so right. And that's so honest to say it that way. Clients ask me, what does it look like to speak to an accountant? Do I have to go through a process? No. I'll connect you with John, and then you set up a Zoom or you make a time to go and meet him in his office and have that conversation. They also ask me, but what about after? What's the after support? So I share a story, and I don't know if you'll remember this. You probably will. But because we are the right fit, because I made the decision to work with you and trust you with all of my husband's and my financials and the business financials, I can be really highly strung. You know this. My listeners know this. My clients know this. I'm very open about this. And I had an issue once early on in our relationship, and I sent you a message and told you that something really serious had happened and I needed to talk to you. And you got back to me within the space
I remember this.
You do? You got back to me within the space of 2 hours, and bless your heart, you were actually on leave. I didn't know that. But because I'd said it was serious, you stepped away from your family to ring me. You said to me, all right, Trace, is this a you problem or a me problem? I went, no, John, this is an us problem. This is really serious. You said, all right, what is it? And I told you, and you laughed and you said, this is a you problem. This is not a me problem. This is bigger in your head. Let me talk it through. And you were right. Not only that, and you talked me off the cliff and you put it into context, your team, because you were on leave, had it sorted within 48 hours. And I love sharing that. The way you said it, is this a you problem or a me problem? It was a me problem.
I remember the conversation, and it's funny you say I talked you off a cliff, because I was actually standing on a cliff face when I had that conversation. I was I was down south of the coast somewhere at the beach somewhere, and I was looking down at the water from a very high vantage point, trying to talk you off the off the cliff.
This is a fabulous story though, because in my mind it was really big, but you knew it wasn't. But you supported me from where I was at, not dismissing me, not telling me it was silly, not telling me I was being highly strung. You heard it and then you just fixed it. And that's what it's like. So that's a story that I tell clients often, and why I really wanted to share it on here, because that's what it should be like, in my view, working with an accountant that's really a part of your team.
Can I give you the behind the scenes on what we're doing or what we're thinking in a time like that? I say to my staff all the time, there's the pathway and there's the people. Okay. So often accountants miss the mark with the relationship because they're pathway people. Accountants tend to be people that want to do tax right. There's a rigid set of rules. This is how you do it. You follow this how-to process. This is how you lodge a BAS. This is how you lodge a tax return. What accountants are not trained in, and these types of people don't naturally gravitate to the profession, is people, okay? And the hardest part of training my staff is taking people that are typically you're really good at technical things and teaching them how to manage relationships. I say to my team members, I go, okay, if a client is concerned, they're feeling some sort of pressure or stress, you need to first internally work out for yourself what process-wise, like what's the pathway. So get clarity for yourself about, okay, this is the problem, this is the solution. But the bigger part of relationship, building trust and having tenure with clients is how you deliver that information, okay? So if you just beat them over the head with this is the solution, you're very abrupt, blunt, and you're not catering to the fact that there's a person behind the business owner or behind the business, you're not going to get the sort of relationship that me and you have, Tracy, right? Where I actually realize that, okay, someone's stressed, they're a person first, this is actually serious for them. I've seen 1,000 late lodgement notices in my life. They haven't, right? So I need to bring them up to speed into the fact that, okay, your level of anxiety right now, is justified. But let me tell you from my experience, I may have been through this, this, and that. And I know that in this certain time horizon, we're going to see the other side of this and you're going to be fine. Can you trust me? Let me hold your hand on this experience. And then I'll paint a picture for you now about these are the steps we'll follow and this is how we resolve it. But power is when you actually tell people to do things and then when they do those things, they get a good result. So if I told you to trust me and I said we can solve that and then you didn't get a good result, if we didn't get the outcome, then the next time something like that comes up, you're not going to trust me. So I need to build power in our relationship by saying to you, do this, this, and that, and I'm going to do this, this, and that. And when we do this, you will get this outcome. If that happens enough times, you're going to trust me. Okay. And then the people side of the pathway people equation is solved, and we can now have a long-term relationship where the dynamic is right.
Brilliant. Thank you for putting all of that into context and the way that you think. That's why it makes you different. You've just explained it. That's why it makes you different. That's why it works. And that's so important for people to know, John, because like I've said, I really wanted to share you with my listeners. I share you with my clients if I think they're a good fit. But this is it. And this is just a little bit of insight into what drives John, what has ignited this passion in John, why John cares. The rest is up to the client and to you in those sessions to see whether or not there's that chemistry, because it's got to be there. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're most welcome. And thanks so much for giving me the platform and having this chat with me. I mean, I've got 1,000 questions I want to ask you, but I feel like I'm going to have you on our podcast, The Lat Chat, soon. And hopefully we can ask you the very same questions.
I would love that. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Tell us about the Lat Chat, because we're going to put the links in the show notes. So I'm going to put links in the show notes for how people can find you, the website. And my best advice to people is to reach out and connect with you, send an email, book a meeting, and then you can have a conversation just like this to see whether you're a good fit. But the Lat Chat is a very cool podcast. And gosh, you have some good guests on there. I would be honoured. And the conversations are so fun. How did that start?
We weren't much of a marketing house probably 5 years ago. We were focused on being good technicians, working out processes and how to build a business. And then we got to the point where we got pretty good with that. And we thought, okay, the only thing that would make this business better right now is to turn on the tap in marketing and actually get more leads through the door. And one of the ways we thought we can do that is social media. But at the same time, we merged with Jacob and came in as a client director with us. And he started speaking about refining our vision and working out who our client is. And like I've said to you, we wanted to work with small business owners. So we said, okay, what better way to connect with small business owners than actually creating a platform for them to come on and share their journeys? So we created the Lat Chat podcast. We bring on small business owners. I think we're sitting at 50 or 60 episodes where they come on, share their story, share their journey, what they've learned, where they come from. And, it's not the world's biggest podcast by any means, but, put the clips out on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn, everywhere else, and they get some, good views. And it's just a good way for people to see our faces. And then funnily enough, the big impact that has for our business is a lot of our clients get to see our faces more regularly and hear from us and find ways or reasons to connect with us. So it helps build the community within the community. It's not so much outreach, but just for the people in the fold already. They're consuming the content, hearing things, coming up with, questions for us. And we love it. it also lets us as accountants do something fun, get away from doing tax and BAS.
And it is fun. It is fun. And you guys are fun. You can see that from your social media. You can see all of that. You're also serious, and you don't see that on the socials, but I can say you're also very serious and you're also very capable. And, I think we both share the vision of there's no such thing as perfection, but we can all strive for excellence. And you certainly talk the talk, you walk the walk. But there's such a fun side. And I'm going to include the link to that podcast in the show notes so that people who aren't in the fold can join the fold and follow along and get some insights firsthand to see what it's like.
We're 100% happy to bring people into the fold. So, if there's anyone who thinks they may need an accountant or want to have a chat, we do free initial consults and we'd speak to anyone who wants to come in. But on the fun side, it's funny you mentioned that. I just want to say we are very serious, and accounting is very serious. The conversations are real and the big dollar conversations. So people look at our socials and they say, oh, you guys are just having so much fun all the time. We record most of our content in short bursts and then clip farm it and send it out over, weeks and months. So, I'd love to say we're having that much fun, that much fun all the time, but it's just not the case.
I have every confidence that a lot of hard work gets done. And I've taken tips from you. In fact, I don't know whether you realize it, but just little insights you've shared about the way the team structure their day, the client delivery work, the deep work. I've refined my processes too, just after taking little tidbits here and there, little nuggets of gold that get dropped in some of our conversations. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that makes you guys, I suppose, grow and have the presence that you have and the community that you have. And for other professionals like me to be able to say hand on heart, you will be in good hands here. So
good stuff.
It's great to see the balance. John, thank you so much for joining me. And I have absolutely loved this conversation. I think we could talk for days, but we won't. But we will do it again.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate you having me on. And I'm going to hold you to the fact that you said you're coming on the Lat Chat podcast. That's going to happen.
I look forward to it. Thanks, John. You can see why we work well together, I'm sure. And you can see that we just connect and it's such fun. And that's probably not something that you ever expect to hear people say when they talk about working with their accountant or, in fact, working with their lawyer. I'm going to include John's details in the show notes. And if what he shared resonated, and if you're scratching your head and you're thinking, oh gosh, it doesn't feel like that for me with my accountant, or I've been putting off reaching out to a small business accountant for so long because I didn't know where to start or all the things, it might just be worth reaching out and having a chat to John and seeing if you're a good fit and if that connection's there. And if it is, great. And if it's not, like I say often and like we said in the episode, keep looking because it's a relationship that is so important. But I thoroughly enjoy working with John and his team. I have so much confidence in them, which is why my husband and I use them, which is why they look after all of my business accounting and tax matters. It's a really important relationship to me and it's one that I value dearly, as I'm sure you can tell from what we shared in the episode. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you next time.